On today's retro spot, we're going to be looking at the original X-Men movie, Jean Grey. And I don't know if this is a blast to the past for anybody out there. I was actually going through my storage, and I found this figure. Where she came from, I don't know. I thought I had actually sold all my figures from the X-Men movie. And we're talking years and years and years back, I sold all these figures. And I thought actually that Jean Grey had been sold too. And I ended up, like I said, going through my storage, and I found it. And I thought, hey, why not actually do a review? We'll do a review of it. But it's certainly a blast from the past, at least for this YouTuber. I certainly remember buying the majority of the X-Men movie figures when they first came out. Now, at the time that I bought them with the intent that I was going to display them. I really had no intentions of actually, I'll just move the camera there, I had no intentions of opening them at the time. And so what we'll do is we'll actually open it, and this will be the first time I'm going to be having these guys loose. So it's going to be an experience. But before we actually open this up, we'll look at the packaging. The packaging, I think, at the time it was released was pretty interesting. I think, however, now looking back on it, the packaging is a little bland. Is the bland the word I want to use? I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's, you know, it's trying to recreate the actual X Mansion, but I don't know. I think the brickwork and everything kind of looks hokey. Also, want to point out too, it's made by Toybiz, so certainly these guys predate the Marvel Legends by a bit. We're actually trying to check the year here. 2000 for it. As you can, it also features a little red X symbol at the top there, and a picture of Famke Janssen, gorgeous looking woman. Down below, there's X-Men the movie with mutated Senator Kelly. Wow. On the back of the packaging, there's a read-up on Jean Grey that says Jean Grey has the mutant power of telekinesis, the ability to move objects with her mind. She also has limited telepathic powers that enable her to hear the thoughts of others in close proximity. As a member of the X-Men, Jean uses both her extraordinary mental gifts and scientific genius to try to create a better world for both man and mutant. She is the object of affection for both Cyclops and Logan, which often causes tension within the outlaw band of mutants. Senator Kelly, you can squeeze. It says, squeeze Senator Kelly to feel his body mutating. Ooh, squeeze Senator Kelly to feel his body mutating. Take that for how you want it. It also says red X logo doubles as display stand for figures, and I'll get into that actually when I open the figures up. The figures in this wave, or actually, I believe they feature both Series 1 and Series 2 on the back here, but we have Logan, Storm, Magneto, Rogue, Professor X, Toad, and then there's Wolverine, Sabretooth, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Mystique, which I believe was Wave 1. And like I said, I think I had most of these figures I had collected. A very interesting story behind the Rogue, the Storm and the Jean Grey was that there were two variants for the figures. I think you can see down below, hopefully, there was a long-haired Jean Grey. And actually there was controversy behind these figures because bless me, I think there's still a little dust on this. But there was controversy with the Jean Grey and the Storm in the fact that her jacket that zippered open, there was actually no t-shirt underneath, and all you could see was her chest. And I think that there was a lot of problems with that. I certainly didn't have any problem with it, but at any rate, what we'll do is we'll get this very old packaging opened up. It's now 10 years old. We'll get this package opened up, and we'll get a closer look at Jean Grey. So don't go anywhere, guys. Stay tuned. And now that Jean Grey is out of her package, we'll get a better look at the figure. Now I have to actually hold this figure just because the way she's posed, and because of my backdrop, and because she's wearing high heels, she doesn't want to stand. So I actually have to hold the figure. The figure itself, granted for a 10-year-old figure, looks pretty decent. You know, it looks pretty decent. Now granted, there is no articulation to speak of, and she suffers from that pre-posed problem. But the figure isn't bad. Now, what I was talking about with the variant, I think you guys can see it inside her shirt, or her jacket. I don't want to touch her boob. You can actually see that she's got a t-shirt or a top underneath. Might be just like a little tank top underneath. The variant actually had this removed. And then what they ended up doing is when they released her with the ponytail version, they ended up painting that little tank top in there, just because without it, it did kind of look. I mean, you could see a little side boob, but the figure's pretty good. I almost prefer, I think, if anything, the ponytailed Jean Grey versus the long-haired Jean Grey. But I mean, again, I know I already mentioned this, but for a 10-year-old figure, the face is pretty decent on her. It is pretty decent. And now where her articulation lies, I mean, being that this is a 10-year-old figure, she only has an articulated head where you can rotate it left and right. She has a swivel shoulder. You can rotate her glove or her forearm if you wish. Same with this one as well. And also with the shoulder on this arm as well. You can rotate the waist, and you can rotate the leg. Now this is where the problem lies. You can rotate the leg, but as you can see, as you rotate it, the leg gets really weird. So I mean, you can pose it somewhat. You can also bend her knee, and that is it. So between moving the leg in a certain way, that doesn't look right. But moving the leg a certain way, you can kind of get her to stand, I guess if she was on a smooth surface. Speaking of stand, as I mentioned, the X stand, or the X symbol that was on the package, they actually advertised these as being able to serve a purpose as a stand for the figures as well. Now the only thing is, though, how you really get them to stand on it is beyond me. You kind of have to maneuver the legs in between the spaces of the X and try to get her to stand that way. But I think, as you guys see, it's not. Oh, there we go. It's not one of the easiest tasks to accomplish, and really, I don't consider this really much as a stand as it is just a piece of the package that they've said, hey, why don't we sell this as a stand as well? That's a good idea. But it's very large too. So I mean, if you had all the characters from the movie and then you had them on the stands, I don't think you could really have them too close to one another just because of these bases. So not really a selling point to me having the stands for the figures. If anything, if they had just given us a little clear stand or something she could stand on, it wouldn't have been as bad. So this, to me, I don't think that's much of a selling point, so we'll just move that to the back. The figure also, as mentioned, comes with Senator Kelly, and actually, you know what? Maybe we'll see if we can get her back on the stand, the very hokey stand. And now, of course, okay, there we go. She also does come with Senator Kelly, which is, he's this rubbery kind of rubber, actually. Doesn't really look like Senator Kelly. I guess it does if, you know, when he was mutated, kind of resembles him. It's very gross looking, though. I mean, it looks like something that somebody chewed up and spit out. Now, the feature of this character, it has no articulation, but I think the camera can hopefully hear it. He's kind of filled with beans, kind of like beans or something. He kind of almost feels like those moisture packs that come with some clothes. But I mean, you can't really do much with them. I mean, you can kind of squeeze him together. You can do stuff like that with them, but I mean, to me it's just kind of like a rubbery toy with some seeds or beans inside of it. Certainly not worth the I don't know, the addition to have him packaged with her. But there you go. Overall, for the year, and I'm not going to be too harsh on the figure. For the year, it's not a bad figure for a 10-year-old figure. I probably would give it about a 5. And certainly if they were to re-release these guys, not necessarily using the same mold, but if they were to re-release them in a Marvel Legends style, where you had all the articulation and then you kind of had the same costumes and stuff, I would pick them up. If you're a fan of the original X-Men movie, though, and you kind of want to get toys from it, I think if you can overlook the fact that the articulation really isn't there, they're not really that bad of a figure. So, but I would give her a 5 just because of the articulation. And so that was a retro spot on the Jean Grey, the variant Jean Grey with the ponytail. And that was from the original X-Men movie. And with that, I'll see you guys again for another spot. Later.